Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this Tampa City Council meeting to order. Joining me today for the invocation is Ms. Sandy Sanchez of Armory Gardens here in West Tampa, here in District 6, a friend to many of us, very, very involved in the neighborhood, very, very involved in bringing positive change to her neighborhood and to the community, especially with Vila Brothers Park and the surrounding area. We appreciate all that she does. Sandy, if you're on the line, if you'd like to begin the invocation.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, please bow your heads. Lord, bless this city council and all participants on today's agenda. Give them guidance to make the best decisions and the courage to challenge adversity for the benefit of our community and the city of Tampa. Amen.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. If you are able to, and if you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance at this time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. All right, roll call, please.
Vieira.
Here.
Good.
Here.
Carlson.
Here.
Dingfelder.
Here.
Citro.
Here.
Miranda.
Here.
Maniscalco.
Here. Before I begin, just a point of personal privilege. I want to wish my sister a very happy birthday. I know she's listening and watching. She's a big fan of our show. Happy 34th birthday. Sorry I can't join everyone tonight. I have a city council meeting, but I hope you enjoy your day. All right.
Happy birthday.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of City Council. Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. Today's virtual meeting, Thursday, August 20th, 2020, is being held in accordance with the declarations and provisions of the Governor's Executive Order 20-69 and 20-193, as they may be further extended, and emergency rules of procedure as adopted and amended by the City Council by Resolution 2020-490. It's being conducted by audio teleconferencing only with video presentations today. Remote participation, which is referred to by the state of Florida statutes and rules as communication media technology. The public and the citizens of Tampa will be able to watch, listen, and view this meeting on cable TV and the internet at https://www.tampagov.net/livestream. And I believe it is also being available on the city's Facebook page. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. We have the approval of the agenda and the addendum, and in that, if you noticed that item number 2, which was Addison Davis, our superintendent of Hillsborough County Schools, is not going to present today. We're going to reschedule that, continue that to September 17th. And then you see the rest of the changes here for the agenda. Also, there's a walk-on item, which I believe we need to take for a separate vote. This will come immediately after we do this. Memo from Andrea Zellman. It'll be quick. So if I can get a motion to approve the agenda and the addendum to the agenda.
So moved. Second. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Councilman Dingfelder.
Thank you, sir. I had my questions answered by staff, but I still had one outstanding question on item 43. Okay. So if we could leave that to the end.
That's fine. Okay. We have a motion from Councilman Goods, I believe, with a second from Councilman Miranda. Roll call vote.
Vieira.
Yes.
Goods.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Dingfelder.
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion
All right.
unanimously.
All right. For this walk-on item, we had a memo from Andrea Zellman, Deputy City Attorney, regarding the appointment of Tyler Hudson as the city's representative for HART. If there's any discussion or questions on this item, to approve this appointment. If not, we can take it to a vote if we can get a motion to approve that.
Mr. Chair, can I just say something?
Wait, Mr. Carlson, was that you?
Yeah, I just want to say, thank you to Tyler for all his hard work on the transportation issue, and there's not many people that would possibly be better than him on that board. Thank you.
Very good.
Second.
Very good. I echo those sentiments.
Mr. Chairman, it's Martin Shelby.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, for the purposes of the record, I'd like to know if there is anybody at the convention center who wishes to speak to this item. It was on the addendum.
All right. Do we have anybody at the convention center that wishes to speak on this item?
Chair, is my understanding there is no one present at the convention center.
At all?
Thank you.
That is correct.
All right, thank you very much. All right. May I have a motion to approve this walk-on item?
So move.
Councilman Goods.
Vieira,
Who is the second? Vieira with the second. Roll call vote.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, thank you very much. We have the Citizens Budget Advisory Board that's going to be presenting. But before I get to that, Su-Ling, do we have, how much do we have in public comment?
We did not receive any public comment requests to speak live. However, we do have 2 recordings that we can play. It's probably about 4.5 minutes together.
Okay, let's get those out of the way since it's short. If you'd like to go ahead and play those, and then we'll go to the Citizens Budget Advisory Board for their presentation. Go ahead and play those comments.
Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Matt, and I'm with the Tampa Fight for 2030 campaign. Today, I wanted to talk about the immediate action that needs to be taken to avert an untold amount of financial damage. Every day we delay taking action is another day closer to this reality. Tampa is in the unique situation that sea level rise will affect it far more than most areas around the world. Effects of this can already be seen around Tampa. As an example, Davis Island becomes inundated with water anytime we have a heavy rain. It's projected that Tampa will see a 3.5-foot rise by 2060 and an 8.5-foot rise by 2100. This rise in sea level will have profound effects on the Tampa Bay area. Low-lying places like Davis Island, TGH, MacDill Air Force Base, Bayshore Boulevard, Channelside, and downtown Tampa will be underwater. This will have devastating effects not only on the financial and tourism industry here in Tampa, but it will also create serious issues for our poor neighborhoods. Without appropriate action, this increase in the water table will cause serious backups all along our sewage and drainage systems. There will also be areas of standing water for days at a time after any rainstorm. We all know that standing water can lead to many public health issues, further straining our financial standing. Our house is on fire, and we can no longer wait to put it out. The threat of sea level rise is too great to ignore, and it cannot simply be fixed by building a wall. By taking action now, we can reduce the projected sea level rise to only about 2 feet by 2100 and prevent financial disaster for Tampa. This council can set an example for the rest of the country and create a lasting legacy by protecting Tampa's future. This is why I'm asking the Tampa City Council to pass a resolution advancing Tampa to 100% clean, renewable energy by 2030. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Natalia Assad, and I'm here as part of the Tampa Fight for 2030 movement, which is working towards transitioning Tampa to clean, renewable energy by the year 2030. I speak on behalf of the children who are inheriting the mess that we have helped create, whether purposely or not. I'm going to start by pointing out what we have done wrong so far. For the last 50 or 70 years, we've been building a system that almost guaranteed the destruction of the environment for our children. For the last 20 years, we've been in complete denial because even though we now have the information about the impact our lifestyle is bringing to our planet, and more specifically to our beloved city of Tampa, we continue to postpone the solutions that would, if not stop, at least avoid the worst case scenarios. We have allowed our utilities companies to construct fossil fuel burning systems of energy, even though we understand what that action will bring to the future. Our policies have almost without exception ignored the science for fear that we will offend the big moneymakers. We have created an infrastructure that exploits our resources and our people in order to benefit the most well-off. And at every opportunity, we have rejected common sense policies like the simple ban on single plastics, for example, in order to give the benefit of the doubt to corporations and individuals who, when encouraged to do the right thing, have not done that. It is time to change that attitude and start thinking how we are going to leave this planet for future generations. It is time to think what we can do right. We can leave a legacy of change towards a more sustainable way of life. And this city council can get the credit for leaving that legacy if you pass a resolution that ensures that Tampa moves to clean, renewable sources of energy for all its needs by 2030. A city resolution that pushes our utilities company to switch to clean energy, that powers its buildings with renewable energy, that helps the most vulnerable with the weatherization of their homes, that provides infrastructure for public transportation that uses clean energy and reduces the number of cars on the road. A resolution that puts the community at the forefront of the fight to a more just and equitable transition to 100% clean energy. We can leave a legacy of destruction and shame for future generations, or we can leave the legacy of bold, intelligent, common sense solutions for a bright future for Tampa Bay. It's up to you. Pass a resolution to move Tampa to 100% clean renewable energy by 2030, and what a legacy you will leave.
Chair, that will conclude our public comment portion of the agenda.
That was great. Thank you very much. Mr. Shelby, I believe I missed an item. I believe it was 53 or some more housekeeping items for this agenda. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we could do the housekeeping items now if you like. Item number 2, as you said, was the superintendent of schools being continued to September 17th of 2020. That could be done by a motion now. We can remove it from the agenda.
All right, we got a motion to remove that item, and it'll be rescheduled for September 7th.
So moved.
We have a motion from Councilman Goods. Do we have a second?
Second, Miranda.
All right, we have a second from Councilman Miranda. All those in, we'll take a roll call vote.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Dingfelder, Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yeah.
Motion carried with Dingfelder being absent at vote.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, item number 53 is, or do I have that? I think it's right. That's the report regarding holding the appeal and review hearings in the evening. That item has already been addressed by council. It can be removed from the agenda, and I discussed that with Councilman Dingfelder.
All right, can I
So if we can have a motion to remove?
So moved.
Yes, you can.
All right, we have a motion from Councilman Goods. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
We have a second from Councilman Carlson. I believe if there's no objection, we'll pass with unanimous consent. Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And finally, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, Martin Shelby, I apologize. One last item, Mr. Chairman. Item 52 is a nearly $4 million agreement that's placed on the staff reports pursuant to the high dollar amount. There is no presentation, so council can take it up without having the staff have to be present unless there are any questions. So if there are any questions for item number 52, Mr. Bide is available and we'll take it up at that time. Otherwise, he can be released if there are no questions and go back to his other duties.
Okay, item number 52, this is a $3.9 million agreement with the city and Scadado. Anybody have any questions on that item?
Mr. Chairman, Charlie Miranda,
Yes,
did
Yes,
someone say 52? I thought that was item 53.
No, 52 is what it shows up here on this agenda, $3.9 million.
Okay. No problem.
All right, are there
If
any
there's
questions?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to resolve if there's any confusion. The numbering between the draft agenda and the final agenda, I believe, was changed. So that may be the result of people having different numbering for different items for this particular agenda. I just want to bring that to your attention.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I printed my agenda an hour ago, so it may have been updated since. But all right. So if there are no questions from council on that item, we will let Vic go about his day, and then when we get to it, we'll just we'll vote on it then.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's it for me.
Thank you very much. All right, we cleared all that up. Now we will go to the Citizens Budget Advisory Board. I believe we have a gentleman that's presenting. Are you on the line, sir?
Mr. Joseph Johnson is the presenter, and I do show him being on the line. He just needs to unmute himself.
All right, sir, if you would unmute yourself. For the Citizens Budget Advisory Board, if you're going to be speaking on this, if you would unmute yourself, please. You are on the line, but you're still muted and we can't hear you. I don't hear anything.
No. Mr. Johnson, if you're having issues connecting, please give me a call.
Okay, so what we'll do is we can go ahead with the consent agenda, and then we'll go back to the gentleman for the presentation, so we can keep the meeting moving along. All right, so item number
Mr. Chairman,
3.
it's Martin Shelby again. I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to be clear for the record that written documentation relative to today's meeting has been distributed to council. And also, Mr. Chairman, I just want to be clear for the record that there is nobody present at the convention center. I believe the clerk mentioned that before. I just want to confirm for these particular items for the consent docket before they're moved.
Okay, very good. So we don't have any public comment or any speakers there. Do we have any requests by the public for reconsideration of legislative matters? We got through that. All right, item number 3 is an ordinance being presented for first reading. Who is here speaking on this item? Is anybody here speaking on item number 3?
Mr. Chair, we have Rachel Peterson of the legal department here if you have any questions about it.
All right, do we have any questions for number 3? Any questions on item number 3?
Mr. Chairman, it's Martin Shelby.
Yes, sir.
Council, this is ultimately going to require an appointment, frankly. So maybe it's best that we just have a little introduction for it, because it's going to be a decision point of council as to who is going to be appointed to this board. It doesn't have to be done today, but if council does make this decision, when it comes back on second reading and adoption on the day of second reading. So perhaps maybe if Ms. Peter can give a little introduction of what is going to be required of City Council and why City Council has to do this.
Okay, if Ms. Peterkin is on the line, if you'd like to just give a brief summary of what this is about.
Hello, council members. This is Rachel Peterkin, Assistant City Attorney with the City of Tampa's City Attorney's Office. As Mr. Shelby mentioned, before you have a proposed ordinance which makes changes to our code, Chapter 17.5, specifically regarding the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. These changes are in response to House Bill 1339, which was adopted and signed into law as part of the 2020 Florida legislative session as Chapter 2020-27 of the laws of Florida. And the new requirement specifically of issue, which will require you to make an appointment, is that by October 1 of 2020, that Affordable Housing Advisory Committee must include a locally elected official. So to support the efficient transition of that committee with as little disruption as possible, what we did was we went ahead and replaced a presently vacant position within the committee that's appointed by City Council with a locally elected official position. That locally elected official will also have to attend a biennial regional workshop that's conveyed and administered under the Affordable Housing Catalyst Program. And the reviews and recommendations that will be made by the advisory committee have been switched from being a triennial event to being an annual event. So that kind of gives you an idea of the responsibilities of that locally elected official.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions from council members?
Mr. Chair, Vera, if I may.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And it broke up a little bit there. Does it have to be an elected official appointed to this, I heard?
Yes, it must be a locally elected official.
That's what I thought. And just
Within the city?
For my thoughts.
I'm sorry, and just to clarify, it's a locally elected official that is appointed by City Council to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee.
Okay, thank you. I was going to say, just for my thoughts, I mean, if it's going to be I'm just talking off the cuff here from us. We often hear a lot about affordable housing from Councilman Goods, Councilman Carlson, Councilman Dingfelder. Just my thoughts. I don't know if the chairman appoints or if a majority of council, but just my thoughts on our colleagues who are most vocal about this issue. But thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments at this time? And I agree with what Councilman Vieira said and the members that he mentioned. We have some, very passionate board members here. I think would make great candidates for this. So having said that, and seeing no other questions, who would like to read this ordinance? Councilmember Carl. Do you have it in front of you, sir?
Did you say Carlson?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I cut out for a second. Hang on, my computer's messing up here. It is this is file number E20220, file number E20208, chapter or CH17.5, correct?
It is, sir.
Ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. Ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, making revisions to City of Tampa Code of Ordinances, Chapter 17.5, Affordable Housing Sustainability and Concurrency Management System, to bring it into compliance with Chapter 2020-27 Laws of Florida, including to require that one locally elected official serve on the city's Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, and to clean up references to the city's Growth Management and Development Services Department, specifically amending sections 17.5 through -2, 17.5-5, 17.5-10, 17.5-12, and 17.5-50. City of Tampa Code, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for severability, providing effective date.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Miranda. Roll call vote, please.
Vieira,
Yes.
Booth,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on September 17th, 2020 at 9:30 a.m.
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman,
Chairman.
Martin Shelby.
Mr. Shelby.
Yes, thank you. Council, did you want to take up, and Mr. Chairman, did you want to take up any discussion as to the appointment? Or I want to know, is there a deadline for council to take action on this, Ms. Peterkin?
The statute says that the position, that member needs to be on the board by October 1 of 2020. So we would need to act within that time frame.
So I'm wondering if council wishes to take it up in terms of a consensus, I can have a resolution with the name for council's consideration on the 17th, or you can take it up on the 17th. It's council's pleasure.
Mr. Chair,
Just-
Carlson.
did I hear Mr. Miranda's voice as well, or no?
I'm listening.
Okay, Mr. Carlson.
Carlson. Sorry, sometimes the phone is going in and out. It's hard to hear my name. Thank you to Councilman Vieira and others for mentioning my name. I think that Mr. Dingfelder or Mr. Goods would be more qualified than I would to participate in this. And so I would gladly support somebody else, but I am very interested in this subject, as you all said, and I want to make sure that we get.
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Sounds to me like Mr. Shelby's giving us a hint that we should make a motion. I'm going to suggest that, just like so many of our other board representations, that we have a resolution that says that the chair will make this appointment. Would that be appropriate, Mr. Shelby?
I don't believe it is in the case of the statute, and we can talk with Ms. Peterkin about this, but I know this is the city council does make all of its appointments via resolution to the advisory board, the Affordable Housing Advisory Board. I believe this is a statutory requirement. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Peterkin.
This is Ms. Peterkin. You are correct, Mr. Shelby. This is required to be an appointment by the board, and all appointments of city council to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee have been done by resolution in the past, consistent with that statute.
And Vieira,
Chairman, Miranda, may I speak?
Miranda first.
Along with Mr. Dingfelder's recommendation, I would imagine it would meet the statute's requirement. If the chairman asks someone to be on that board and the council members vote on it, then that means the city council members agreed.
As long as it's ultimately in the form of a resolution that's passed by at least 4 members of council, that would satisfy the statutory requirement.
I just want to make sure it specifies the statutory requirement. And I agree with Mr. Dingfelder, but I also agree that the council as a whole should vote on it, and I hold it that way. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Vieira. Whoever shuffles,
thank you,
please mute your phone. Mr. Vieira.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and I agree with what was stated about your appointing it. And another point may be that, you know, the Councilman Dingfelder and Councilman Goods, if they're going to be considered, may also want to look at the responsibilities of the board, because it appears to have time demands, et cetera. So it may very well be better suited to decide by the next meeting, where they can, you know, take a look at it. Just my thoughts, for whatever it's worth. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else? No?
Mr. Chairman, just in light of the October deadline, and in light of the advice from Mr. Shelby, et cetera, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that at the second reading, after the second reading of this change, this ordinance change, that you bring back your that we give you the authority as chairman to bring back a recommendation for an appointment, and that recommendation be added to the council agenda as a resolution. So I guess that would mean you'd just work with the clerk and Mr. Shelby to put together a resolution with your recommendation. That would be my motion for today, if appropriate, Mr. Shelby.
Mr. Shelby, that sounds good. What do you think?
Sure, that would be fine. That would follow the second reading and adoption of the of this ordinance. So if it could be a motion, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion from Councilman Felder. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from
Miranda.
Citro?
Miranda.
Oh, Miranda with the second. Roll call vote.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, we have the gentleman on the line for the Citizens Advisory, the Budget Advisory group to be presenting. Sir, are you on the line, and can you hear me?
I am on the line, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. How long do you think for your presentation that you need?
It shouldn't take that long, Mr. Chairman. No more than 15 minutes, if that. Again, I do apologize.
All right. So we'll do the presentation 15 minutes, and then any questions from council members, maybe another 5 minutes if we need to. So we'll keep it within a 20-minute time frame. All right, go ahead, sir, if you'd like to present. I know you had a PowerPoint. If we could bring that up on the screen and go from there. And you may begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joseph Johnson. I represent District 5. I was appointed by Randall Goots in 2019 to join the Citizens Budget and Finance Committee. This is my second year on the committee, and with it being my second year, I'm now the chairman of the committee. And with that, I'd just like to point out our vice chair, Mr. Craig Newman, who was appointed by Bill Carson, District 4, Jeffrey Natusky, who was appointed by Joe Citro in District 1, Stephen Lytle, who's a veteran of our committee, and former chairman, he was appointed by Charlie Miranda, District 2. Diva Chavez, this is her second year. She was appointed by Councilman Dean Felder, District 3. Missy Martin, again, another veteran of the committee. She was appointed by yourself, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Maniscalco, District 6, and Joe Farrell, appointed by Louis Vieira, District 7. If we go to the next slide, which is slide number 3, just kind of briefly talk about the departments that we met with. Go over the departments that we met with. We met with the city grant specialist, solid waste department, stormwater engineering, transportation engineering, parking vision, technology and innovation, human resource, purchasing department, development and economic opportunity, wastewater, water department, neighborhood enhancement, parks and recreation. And meeting with a number of these departments, we took away a lot of information. And as you can see, as we go to slide number 4, we want to kind of talk about some of the previous recommendations that have been made by prior committee members in our prior committee since 2015. And as you see the years advance on, you'll see some of the items that we recommended will fall off the list, and you may see some that are reoccurring. So in 2015, some of the recommendations that we recommended was city fleet, city apprenticeship, parks and recreation, code enforcement, automated water reading, enterprise master plan. And then when you jump over to 2016, you see city fleet again, the apprenticeship program, parks and rec, stormwater. So we saw code enforcement fall off. We saw the automated water reading fall off, which means that it was something that was enacted. The enterprise master plan fell off. So that was something that was enacted as well. We jumped to 2017. Again, we kind of look at city fleet repair and maintenance, aging infrastructure, asset property management. Notice parks and rec has disappeared, stormwater disappeared, along with aging and infrastructure. When we jump into 2018, we see that the millage rate was one of the items that was recommended. Parking audit, also, again, parks and recreation was back on there, and then maintenance fees. So when we jump into 2019, again, the millage rate fell off. Parking audit was back on there. Parks and recs fell off, and the maintenance fees fell off, and it was replaced with wastewater and master plan, the North Tampa Employee Health Clinic, parking audit, human resource personnel costs. So we go to the next slide, please. And again, we like to highlight the successful committee recommendations. As you can see, in fiscal year 16-17, the apprenticeship program was approved, asset property management for fiscal year 17-18, code enforcement increased headcount for fiscal year 17-18, North Tampa Employee Health Clinic was approved for fiscal year 20, Enterprise Department Master Plan, fiscal year 19, fleet maintenance, fiscal year 17, parking rate study for fiscal year 20, stormwater maintenance repair and improvement, fiscal year 16, the P-card program for fiscal year 20, and the police body cameras for fiscal year 20. So now we go into the next slide, which is slide number 6, growth and development. Talk briefly about the city of Tampa and its growth and development. So we go to slide number 7. We'll break it down. So if we look at 2016 to 2018, there was a total of 66,000 people that worked in downtown. There was a total of 8,000 people who lived in downtown and Harbor Island combined. We had 18 new buildings being constructed in downtown by Water Street. There's 1,800 new residential units that opened
between 2016 and 2018. Now we fast forward to 2018, 2020, we have 12 public parks downtown. We have over 522,000 square feet of office space under construction. We have about 12,000 people that live in downtown currently. We have 9 million square feet of total development slated for completion on Water Street by 2021. We have 72,000 people that work in downtown. We have about 1,664 new units under construction. Next slide, please. So now we come to committee recommendations, and this really stood out with us as we met with various departments throughout the past 3 months. And a few of the areas that stood out to us, our key topic was community development, neighborhood enhancement, the grant department, and also parking rate increase. So let's go to the next slide. When we talk about community development and neighborhood enhancement, we're looking to create a community enhancement department with 3 enhancement representatives. Now, we don't need to create a department. What we like to do is add additional personnel. I know in the mayor's budget, she presented creating a community enhancement director. Well, instead of creating a community enhancement director, what we like to see is have community enhancement representatives that can get out there and represent each district, if not each district, represent 2 districts combined, and gather information from the residents of the homeowner associations that's in that community, and bring back information that can become actionable items that can actually help enhance the neighborhood. So as you see, we break down the districts into 3 parts, of which each representative working with neighborhood leaders to enhance the neighborhood, solicit more community, and we'll do this by having these representatives solicit more community members' involvement. Additionally, we look down at an aid in helping with grant writing. By gathering the information from these homeowner associations, by attending their meetings and seeing what they're looking to do in their neighborhoods, this would enact that community representative to take that information, go back to the grants writing department and see how the grants writing department can assist the neighborhood associations with obtaining funds to help with projects that they're looking to build in their community. If we go down to the next bullet, they will also increase efforts to provide more affordable housing by utilizing the City of Tampa's home ownership down payment assistance program. We could use them to educate our residents on this, which is and this fund is funded by the state. The state appropriates funds, but because of COVID-19, they were unable to do so this year because they had to use the funds for something else. So we would recommend that the city look to allocate some funds from the budget for home ownership down payment, for the home ownership down payment program. Let's go to slide number 10, please. Continue community development and neighborhood enhancement. Goes back to what we talked about in slide number 9. So let's talk about inform and educate. The city has the Dare to Own the Dream, the DARE program, as pertains to home ownership program. A lot of residents of the city of Tampa, they know nothing about this program. So we need to really be highlighting this throughout the city. And that's where those neighborhood representatives would come into play. They can inform the residents as it pertains to the Dare to Dream program. We have the programs in place as it pertains to education. So we educate the City of Tampa rental residents. Okay, we use the Housing and Community Development Division. And through Housing Counseling Agency partners, we'll be providing home buyer education classes in both English and Spanish. Let's go down to slide number 11. So let's talk about the grants department expansion. So currently we have Catherine Hayes, who is our grant specialist supervisor. And with Catherine Hayes, I think she's been a tremendous asset to the city. So as we can see, there's 50 applications that total $45,889,775. Of that, the city has received $10 million in federal grant dollars. And there's another $35 million that's pending. So we recommend that Catherine Hayes oversee a grant writing team. We believe that with expanding of a grant writing department, this will help the city tremendously in obtaining additional funds. So as you can see, I put in a few examples that I can highlight. So like example one, grant writers will focus on community enhancement, guiding neighborhood representatives on obtaining funds to support neighborhood projects. If we look at example number two, we'll have a grant writer that will assist TPD and TFR in obtaining various matched and unmatched funds through federal departments such as DOD, DOH, and DOJ for training and equipment funds as it pertains to anti and counterterrorism activities throughout the city of Tampa, such as ports, convention centers, etc. Those are just a few grants out there that we used as an example. Now this brings us to one of the departments that really, stood out to us, and that was the parking department. So as you can see, we're talking about the parking rate increase. We're looking to revise the parking division so it can really thrive as a true enterprise department. So currently, the parking department is down $1.7 million in revenue, and it's being supported by the city's general funds. There's a 45% revenue loss due to COVID-19, $144 million needed in the next 10 years for necessary projects. So as we look at the immediate need, approximately $18 million. So we're looking to convert parking rides into a contactless approach, include SunPass options, purchase vehicles with tag readers. With this, let me touch on that when I talk about purchase vehicles with tag readers. Currently, the city has a vehicle that can perform this capability. And what this tag reader does, it goes around the city, within the city limits, and it scans vehicles' tags to see if any of these motor vehicleists have any unpaid parking tickets. In doing this, this will help the city capture lost revenue or revenue that's just floating out there. By doing this, it'll increase the revenue by 25%. We need to also make sure that we're adding boots on the trucks. So if there are outstanding tickets, our parking enforcers can boot those vehicles so that the city can capture the revenue that's currently just floating and showing up as lost. They're looking to become a multi-mobile scooter, use trolley, Uber, Air platform to capture event revenue. Let's look at the parking rate increase. We're looking to increase parking rates by 20%. We can extend the paid parking hours Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., and this includes the weekends. We can increase paid parking zones through downtown near north of Kennedy Boulevard on weekends and weeknights. We can also expand city parking zones to coincide with new development. Now, what we did was we looked at the numbers for 4 of the surrounding cities. We looked at the city of Fort Lauderdale, we looked at the city of Miami, and we looked at Orlando. And as you can see, we looked at both public and private. And of course, as you see on the graph, the private sector outnumbers the public sector by between $7 and $8. Well, if you look at the city of Tampa, currently we're in the $1 range, and you look at Orlando, they're right about $2, right along with St. Pete. Miami is Miami. They're up there in between $3 and $4, almost $5. And Fort Lauderdale is just right about $3. We need to really focus on the parking department, because the parking department right now is really not functioning and operating as a true enterprise department. It's being held afloat by the general fund. Let's go to the last slide, which would be 14. So we talked about the committee role enhancement. We need to become more of an active committee. Right now, we're more of a seasonal committee. We form when the budget is being put together and finalized by the mayor and her team. So what we're looking to do is we're looking to have more of an insight to make sound recommendations to council. And we're looking to have quarterly meetings with departments that have ongoing capital improvement projects. And in meeting with these departments, as it pertains to their capital improvement projects, we can see exactly how far that they have advanced. So when it comes to the next fiscal year's budget, we have more of an insight, and we can make more sound recommendations as it pertains to the numbers. This completes, my presentation to council. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much. That was an excellent presentation. Do we have any questions from council members at this time for the gentleman?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say to Mr. Johnson and the other 6 members, kudos to you, all of you, for the great work you've done, not only this year, but in the past. You've been through 13 departments very thoroughly, and you certainly made a comparison of what you've done between 2015 to 2019, which is an excellent idea to show the progress has been made, or the lack of, on our part. And I just want to say thank you, and we're going to take these very seriously. I know that myself, and I'm sure that other members of council, maybe all of them, more than likely, have already had contact with the parking department in one way or the other regarding your recommendations, and we're very appreciative of everything you, sir, have done along with your committee. I appreciate very much your services. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who else had any questions?
Vieira, if I may.
I think everybody's got something.
All right, so we'll go Goods, Vieira, Dingfelder. Councilman Goods, I heard your voice first very quickly. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your leadership this morning. Mr. Johnson, I look at the grant writers. How many grant writers does the city have? Because I've asked that question before in the past, and I'm real big on grants. Do you happen to have that number?
So right now, we currently have Catherine Hayes as the grant writer specialist. We met with her at the beginning of reformation of the Budget and Finance Committee, and some of the things that she talked about, was just outstanding. And I think that if we expand on that department, we can capture so much more revenue from the federal and state department. So right now, what I know is we have one grant writer. I think Mike Perry might be on the line and he can speak to this. Mr. Perry, are you on the line to answer that question, sir?
Yes, good morning. This is Mike Perry, City of Tampa Budget Office. We have expanded that staff from Catherine Hayes, who has been selected to be the supervisor. We are currently in the process of reviewing applicants to fill 3 grant specialist positions. So the grants team will go from 1 to 4 positions. Any questions?
And will those positions be equally split, divided of different departments, or are they just going to be in one office for any grants that come into the city?
They will be within the budget office, and they'll be assigned areas of specialties: public safety, housing, social services, etc.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Next speaker we have is Councilman Vieira, then Councilman Felder, and then we have Councilman Citro. Go ahead, Mr. Vieira.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you again. I echo the comments of the wonderful, in-depth, very, very detailed presentation. I just, there's a lot of citizens boards out there, and we listen to all of them, but this is one of them. At least it's been my experience in 3.5 or so years on council, that this is one that we place a lot of stock in, and that we appreciate that second, third, fourth, whatever it is, pair of eyes, taking a look at the budget, and not just the budget, but what's going to be happening in the future. I remember in 17, my first budget, we were looking at a millage rate, aka a tax increase, and y'all came out with a position on it, and not easy things to do when there's disputes, etc. So my hat's always off. Just a couple of things I always wanted to emphasize in this budget, that and I know that everybody knows this, especially in the advisory board, that this is Mayor Castor's fiscal year 2021 budget is probably, I would suggest, the most pro-disability budget whenever it comes to recreation that we've seen here in the city of Tampa. We have funds in Councilman Good's district for a disability-friendly park, which is a major step forward for our community. We have funds for the so-called autism sensory-friendly disability park, and it continues to make investments in making sure that we are on the step to making sure that all of our parks and recreational facilities have disability accessible equipment. So, this is a budget that really, really puts that very, very special issue forward. Something we have to take a look at, and looking at the future in our budgets, is public safety. I think it was on Monday, I remade my motion that it had to get set aside because of COVID-19. for taking a look at a master plan for public safety issues. Just this council in the last year, we've had to deal patch work, so to speak, piecemeal, with public safety challenges involving fire, first in East Tampa, then in North Tampa, and addressing these bit by bit, looking at money in the budget just on a sporadic, reactive basis. And my point is that we ought to have a citywide approach, just like we're doing for parks, when it comes to our public safety needs, where we know where the deficits are whenever it comes to public safety. That's fire, that's EMS, that's law enforcement, so that we can know where the investments need to be made on a citywide basis. And that was the, obvious intention of my of the motion and the idea, so that we can have a comprehensive view. Because you take, for example, in North Tampa, Station 13, the busiest station in the city of Tampa, always among the 50 or 60 busiest stations within the United States of America, according to certain studies done. So, that's certainly something that we always ought to take a look at. And obviously, the next few years, we don't know where we're going to be going. Fiscally, we don't know what the next few months, years are going to hold. Is there going to be a similar CARES Act? I don't want to call it a bailout, but assistance to local governments and municipalities, like we've seen. And we appreciate the bipartisan help that's come through Washington. And we certainly hope that that's going to continue, because local government meets the needs of the people. And we hope and pray that we'll continue to be able to do so. But again, just in closing, thank you all again for all your hard work. You guys don't get paid a dime for this. And we appreciate everybody. And I'm glad, sure, that you had also mentioned all of our appointments, because every single man and woman on that board works hard and is dedicated. So we appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Councilmember Dingfelder, followed by Councilmember Citro. Councilmember Carlson, did you have any questions or comments after Citro?
Yes, please.
All right, so we'll go Dingfelder, Citro, Carlson. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Johnson, and to your committee. You guys did a great job this year. That grant issue is definitely of interest. Sometimes it takes a little extra money to make a little extra money, and I think that's I think that's what grants are all about. Mr. Perry or Mr. Bennett, if you're still on the line, in regard to those 3 or 4 positions, Mr. Perry, that you mentioned, are those new positions, or are those positions that were just vacant because they by attrition or what have you over the years? That's my initial question.
Those are brand new positions.
So we have 3 brand new positions underneath the supervisor.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well that's excellent. Yes, sir.
Yeah. This is John Bennett, Chief of Staff. To Mr. Perry's point, the mayor recognized early in the administration that everything that council's been saying was a need to support grants and if you go back to the presentation for the budget for FY21, the centerpiece or the foundation was financial opportunity and responsibility. And we know, as council does, that not all resources come from the tax base, and we have to look to grants and other means, and this was part of the vision of that. So we're glad that Mr. Councilman Goods brought it up, and we're glad that we were able to get those 3 positions going.
Well, I think it doesn't surprise me that this administration is headed in that direction. TPD has always been a leader in looking for grants and finding grants, and so with y'all's background at TPD, it makes good sense, and I appreciate that. We're kind of spreading that across other departments. Mr. Bennett, is there what other opportunities other than law enforcement does the city see in terms of seeking grants? I heard Mr. Perry say they were going to be spread out across all the departments, but do we see a particular focus or opportunity in certain areas like Parks and Rec, or the utilities, or what?
Thank you for the question, Councilman Everything you just mentioned. One of the things that Mr. O'Hara presented as well was I believe he put up there, Mr. Perry can correct me if I'm wrong on the number, but it was close to $80 million worth of grants that are in view, if you will, and also leveraging our partnerships. I mean, we have a great team in Marley Wilkes and Ian Whitney who are canvassing the region and beyond, of course, the federal opportunities. So all of those have become feeders. Whit Remmer, who's just joined us as the Sustainability and Resilience Officer, has a tremendous background in grants as it relates to climate. We heard our two callers today talk specifically about sea level rise. So all of these quality of life things, as they flow through the strategic plan revamp that was presented to the budget, is all going to be looked for grants and opportunities as discussed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Perry.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Councilmember Citro and then Councilmember Carlson. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Johnson, thank you very much for this report. You and your team have done an excellent job, and I'd like to talk about something that's not really sexy, but it is very important. And you hit the nail right on the head when you said about parking rate increases. That is something that's long overdue for the city of Tampa, a city of our size. Doesn't charge in an equal amount as other cities that are our side. But I do want to bring up a couple of points that we have so much parking, underutilized parking in the city of Tampa. And I've been talking with Vic Vidic, who is with Mobility and also the Downtown Partnership. To go hand in hand with all this parking, we're going to need to have an app to show people when they come into the downtown area where they can park, to hold a parking space for them. But the major thing is we also need to have that first mile, last mile. People will be able to park further away from their office, but with a downtowner in a continuous loop or two different types of loops, be able to take that from a parking space that may be further away into town, closer to their office. Again, this has been an excellent report. I'm glad you talked about the unsexy parking, but it's something that needs to be addressed. Mr. Johnson, thank you to you and your team. Mr. Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Carlson.
Yes, I want to echo what my colleague said. Thank you to you and your colleagues for all the hard work and specificity and also deep research that you all did. It's great to have volunteers looking over everything like that. Just one big question, and sorry if this puts you on the spot, but a couple weeks ago when the city presented the proposed budget, the line that was released in the press release and everything is that this is the largest budget ever in the history of the city of Tampa. And so I got a bunch of calls after that with people asking, why would the city of Tampa launch the largest budget ever during the middle of a pandemic? And so people started asking me where they said there must be room to save money somewhere. Why can't we cut the budget somewhere? Has your committee looked at places that we could potentially save money? And if so, is there any place that we can propose to save money as the budget hearings come up?
Well, with COVID-19, I mean, we were able to talk with a number of the departments, and a lot of the themes that came up within departments was, head count being down, head count. Also, we discussed capital improvement projects. So if you look at my closing slide, one of the things that I touched on is we need to take a more expanded role and really, as a committee, it's a citizens advisory board, but at the same time, we can do a better job in playing a much better role if we can do more of a deep dive into the departments to see exactly where we can save. Now, one of the areas that I noticed, and if you go back to community development enhancement, I said that the mayor requested a community enhancement and director position. We're top heavy, in my opinion, in the city. We have directors, we have administrators. So, I mean, while we're saving money on the FTE side in some departments, we could be saving at the managerial level as well. I think we can get more done with more boots on the ground rather than more individuals sitting in a chair. So when it comes to where we can save money, I think this year was a little challenging because of COVID. So next year we'll be able to do a more thorough and in-depth job in analyzing where we can save money for the city as it pertains to the budget. But that question, sir, I think that we can take a look at some of the top heavy positions that we have in the city if we want to talk about saving money.
Well, thank
and
you
not
very
at
much.
the FTE level.
Thank you very much. And if there's anything we can do to support you all being able to take a deeper dive, please let us know. And in case you all aren't meeting again before our budget hearings, if any of you individually have any ideas, please call or email me. Would love to hear whatever insights you have. And anybody else from the public who's deeply looking at the budget, please let us know. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Goods.
this is a question for Mr. Shelby. Mr. Shelby?
Mr.
Shelby?
Yes, sir. Martin
Mr.
Shelby,
Johnson
City
alluded-
Council Attorney.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Johnson alluded to their committee meeting more. Is that a purview of council, or is that a mayor's board, or is that a HAB board?
Actually, that is a board that was created by the City Council. I have not looked over the resolution that created that board. Certainly, that board's effectiveness is dependent upon the collaboration with the administration. Obviously, that board does create staff interaction and staff preparation. So I don't know the answer to that. I believe it's something that certainly, if you'd like me to take a look at and get back to council on, and certainly the chief of staff is listening in and certainly hears that request. And the question is whether such a thing can be arranged without having council to take specific action. So I'm willing to look into that if that's your pleasure.
If you would do so, sir.
I will do so, and I will report back to council. Would you like that on a specific date, or should I just bring it up at the next regular meeting under new business?
You can bring it back to new business, Shelby.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments for council members? Hearing none, thank you again, sir. That was a wonderful presentation to you and your entire committee for all their hard work every year. We always have great presentations. You really focus on the details. You do your homework. You volunteer your time, which is very valuable to something that you believe in, and that's what we can all agree is we love our city very, very much, and we all we take pleasure in serving. Thank you very much. All right. Having said that, we will go to committee reports and the consent agenda. I verified to see if we can, instead of doing roll call votes, to do a unanimous consent. We cannot, because there is quite a bit of money being moved. So if you will bear with me, we will start with the Public Safety Committee, which is Chairman Joseph Citro, items 4 through 10. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I move items 4 through 10.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from, I believe, Councilman Goods. Roll call vote.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, we go next to Parks, Rec, and Cultural Committee. That is Chairman Goods, items 11 and 12.
Chairman, I move items 11 and 12.
Second, Miranda.
Motion from
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Goods, Miranda. Councilmember Carlson, you have a question?
Yes, just in an abundance of caution, I would like to recuse myself from items 11 and 12, and I'll file paperwork for that. Thank you.
Mr. Shelby, did you hear that?
Items 11 and 12.
Yes.
And is there a basis for that abstention, sir?
Yes, I think I might have, my company may have client issues related to those two. So in abundance of caution, I'd like to recuse myself. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I'll work to prepare those forms for you to get and filed with the clerk. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion then from Councilmember Goods, a second from Councilmember Miranda. I know Carlson will be abstaining from this. Roll call vote, please.
Vieira. Vieira. Goods.
Vieira's
Yes.
call just dropped.
Dingfelder.
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried with Vieira being absent at vote and Carlson abstaining.
All right, thank you very much. Next up, we have our Public Works Committee, and that is Chairman Dingfelder, items 13 through 26.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move those items 13 through 26.
Second, Mr. Chairman, Miranda.
We have a second from Councilmember Miranda. Roll call vote.
Vieira.
Yes.
Goods.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Dingfelder.
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, thank you very much. Next up is Chairman Miranda, items 27 through 29.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Moves item 27 through 29.
Second, Citro.
We have a motion from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilmember Citro.
Question on this question on the motion.
Councilmember Dingfelder.
Thank you. I just wanted to give a shout out to staff in regards to items 28 and 29, which is appears to be approximately a $6 million reimbursement from the federal government for COVID-related expenses. I know that staff at every level, including the mayor, has been working hard to make sure that we respond to COVID very efficiently and effectively, which I believe the city has to the best of our ability, and to try and get reimbursed for that response also to the best of our ability from the federal government and through the state of Florida. So just kudos to the mayor and staff to keep us fiscally solvent through this very expensive COVID problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A motion from Councilmember Miranda with a second from Councilman Citro. Roll call vote.
Vieira.
Yes.
Goods.
Yes.
Yes.
Dingfelder.
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, next up, we have Building, Zoning, and Preservation. Remember, we removed with the addendum, item number 39. So Councilmember Carlson, if you could move items 30 through 38, then 40 through 44.
Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
I'd like to do 30 through 38 and then 40 through 44, please.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, before we move all those items, I had requested in regard to 43 at the beginning of the meeting.
Yes, sir. For 43, if there's anybody here for the Corona Relief Fund agreement, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I was communicating with staff and specifically with Miss Carol Post. I don't know if Carol's on the line. As to how we're going to use that additional $1 million. You know what? That might not be. Is that now 43? Yeah, 43. How we're going to use that additional $1 million from the state. Ms. Post indicated that we're going to continue to distribute that to the citizens, and and then she said she hopes it will be citywide. I just wanted to see if we had any more information to ensure that it would be citywide as opposed to district by district. Is Ms. Post on?
Do we have Carol Post on the line by any chance?
Okay. All right.
is on the line.
Hey, good morning. This is Carol.
All right.
Hey,
Go ahead.
Carol.
Good
Carol,
morning.
just on item 43, I just wanted to you to basically just put on the record what you had told me by email in regard to the administration's intent with the $1 million of additional funding for item 43.
Yes, sir. I'd be happy to. We were pleasantly surprised to receive these funds, and our interest is targeted to refresh the individual relief program that the city had initiated starting in April. If the council recalls, we initiated relief very rapidly as soon as the pandemic had hit upon us, and the first relief program was targeted to individual residents, and it was to provide benefits for rent, mortgage, and utility relief. We had tremendous demand for that, so much so that we had to, at a certain point, cut off that relief program. Since that and subsequent to that, we, as you all know, we initiated a number of business relief programs. We had not been able to return to individual relief, and so this gives us an opportunity to refresh that, particularly at a time when we feel the threat of evictions and the like are on the horizon. So it would definitely be our intention to refresh the individual relief program and to target likely rent, mortgage, and utility relief. We do have some options that this allocation provides, and so that's what we're looking through the criteria and the eligibility standards for it. But as with the prior individual relief, which was citywide, there were no geographical limitations. There are income limitations and some other standards that apply, but no geographical. So that's why my assumption, and I'm cautiously optimistic, but fairly certain that we will not have that would be a citywide program. And just one other item to note, as we knew, the city's programs were always intended to be a gap filler until other federal funds became available, many of which are now available. So again, pointing out that the business community now has a number of options provided by the county-wide CARES Acts, and we are strongly emphasizing that our businesses take advantage of that. So again, wanting to use this additional allocation for our individuals and intending that to be citywide.
Thank you, Ms. Post. That does answer my question. I think that we all read and hear about the continuing unemployment, actually rising unemployment, inevitably that's going to be rising evictions and foreclosures. So to the extent that the city can help with that is a great thing, and I appreciate you chiming in that it's our goal to be citywide, because we don't, we're going to have problems in every possible corner of the city. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Post.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, please. Ms. Post?
Yes.
Yes.
The extra dollars we're talking about now, the previous dollars, have all those been allocated out to the businesses, the residents? Has that money been depleted, number one? And with this extra money coming, I know that I received a lot of calls in reference to payments that had not been made when the program first started to up until now. So I'm just trying to figure out, how are we doing now with the program? Are we up to date now? Or are we still behind? Or how are we working with this?
So I appreciate the question. As I stated, we have a number of programs in flight. And so in reference to the individual program, that program has been substantially complete. We ultimately assisted about 1,200 individual residents from around the city. And I believe we've completed payment out to if you recall, the payments went directly to landlords and to lenders. And so that added a step to the process. There was a number of forms and exchanges that had to occur to make that transaction complete versus being able to pay directly to the resident. but that process has been substantially complete. In full disclosure, if there may be one or two or a dozen or so left, we needed to get W-9 forms from landlords or lenders, but we've been chasing them down. We've even had folks from the law department assisting us to really try to expedite and conclude that. So the individual program is completed. On the business program, similarly, we had a number of modifications to the program depending on the source. If the council recalls, we started using HUD CDBG funds. There were a number of constraints involved in using those restricted dollars. We then had the opportunity, thank you to the CRA board, to tap into CRA funds. Likewise, there were some limitations with that, but we've worked through most of those challenges. And then ultimately, we initiated a stimulus type program that enabled us to more effectively flow funds direct to business recipient, which I think brought relief at a certain time and to a certain recipient that was very helpful. In all cases, they were intended to be a bridge until the Federal CARES Act funds began to flow from the county. That started about 30 days ago. The county's R3 program is now up and running, and the city is advocating for all businesses and individuals, but mostly for businesses, to take advantage of a range of relief options that are available from the county.
All right, thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I had calls in reference to folks talking about how long it was taking. And I know the county, when they came up with their program, they were much faster. And I think because the county had a different type of system and so forth. So I'm just hoping in the future, I know we're gonna have a problem again because the economy is gonna do what it does, but making sure that we have all avenues, make sure we get these things out in a timely fashion to the folks. I know you guys are working very hard. We appreciate all you're doing. I yield back to Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? No, Councilman Carlson, on item number 39, before you move the consent agenda, can we get a motion to remove item number 39?
So
motion to move item 39.
Motion to remove item number 39. I think the second was from Councilman Goods, correct?
Yes, we'll
All right, roll call vote to remove item number 39.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Petro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Carlson, if you would make a motion to move items 30 through 38 and 40 through 44.
Motion to move items 30 through 38 and 40 through 44. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Carlson, second from Councilmember Goods. Roll call vote.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Petro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, thank you very much. We now move on to Chairman Vieira with the Transportation Committee, which is items 45 through 48.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And if I was absent for a vote, I think I was before my phone dropped, or the line dropped, I should say, for a minute. So my apologies and regrets. Mr. Chair, I move items 45 through 48.
Second, Charlie.
Motion from Councilman Vieira, second from Councilman Miranda. Roll call vote.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Petro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you very much. So item number 49, who would like to make a motion to set this review hearing for October 22nd, 2020 at 5:01 p.m.?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Councilman Miranda, second from Councilmember Goods. Roll call vote.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you very much. We now go into public hearings. They're non-judicial. Items number 50.
Can we take them separate, Mr. Chairman? I'm sorry, Martin.
Yeah, let's keep them separate.
Please.
Motion to open the public hearing.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Citro.
Second from Councilman Citro. Unless there's any objection, we'll open up by unanimous consent. All right, item number 50.
Chairman, just as a point of order, did we do 49?
Yes, we did. We set the public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. This is Jan McLean, Office of the City Attorney, and I'm here for item number 50, which is the consideration of the adoption of a non-ad valorem special assessment for the Downtown Special Services District of the City of Tampa. And as we've done previously, we need to have you consider the adoption of the annual roll within the public hearing you've just opened, to take that vote before the hearing is closed. In addition to doing that, I have a resolution approving the Downtown Special Assessment Services Agreement between the city and the Downtown Partnership, which I would also respectfully request that you approve during the public hearing. At this time, I also have Linda Raymond, who is the President and CEO of the Tampa Downtown Partnership, on the line, who would like to make a few comments.
All right, Linda.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Shelby.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but in an abundance of caution, I would just like to have council affirm by a roll call vote the opening of the public hearing. This is for a special assessment. I don't want to have any issues down the road. So in an abundance of caution, I appreciate council taking the time to do that.
All right, who made the motion to open the public hearing?
I did.
Councilman Miranda with the second from Councilman Goods, I believe. Can we get a roll call vote?
Vieira,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, thank you very much. Linda, go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Good morning, Mr. Chair and City Councilmen. As you know, I'm Linda Raymond, President and CEO of the Tampa Downtown Partnership, and we have operations at 400 North Ashley Street, Suite 2125. We represent 240 members and 49 board members and over 3,000 property owners. I'm here today to ask for your approval and continuation of the Special Services District for Downtown Tampa and the Special Services Agreement between the City of Tampa and the Tampa Downtown Partnership. Over the last 2 months, we've met with most of you, and all of you should have a packet which has our work plan and budget for fiscal year 21. In that work plan includes programs and services in the realm of maintenance and safety, marketing, transportation and planning, and beautification and urban design, including placemaking and activation for downtown. Just to recap, the district was formed in 1994 to provide services above and beyond city services, and the assessment began at 1.0, changing to 1.1 in 1996. And I'm pleased to report that with downtown's continued growth, we're proposing a change in the assessment rate for fiscal year 21 to 1.0285 per $1,000 of assessed property value, resulting in an overall budget of approximately $3,284,000. I appreciate your time today. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Do you have any questions from board members?
Yes.
All right. We have these two resolutions, so we get to take two separate votes. Do we have
Mr.
any?
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I did have a question for Linda.
Go ahead, sir.
Is she still on?
Yes, I am.
Ms. Raymond, last year probably exactly this time, we had a rather controversial hearing on the issue up there by the armature works at the Heights, and that at the time that area was included in the downtown special services district. They didn't want to be included, but council included them. What's the status of that now?
Yes, thank you for clarifying that. So the properties associated with Soho Capital, which includes Armature Works, have been removed from the district boundaries. It encompassed about just under 12 blocks, I believe. And the purpose of that was mainly because Soho Capital has created their own CDD, or Community Development District. So they are providing the services basically that the partnership would have been providing in that area. So they were respectfully removed from the district for this fiscal year going forward.
So isn't that the same thing they said last year? That they were already providing the services?
That is correct.
And whose decision was it to gracefully allow them to leave?
Ultimately, it is the decision of City Council.
I mean, was it a board decision or a staff decision on y'all's part?
It was a request made by Mr. Adam Harden to the city to be removed from the district.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council members? Okay, hearing none. Is there any public comment on this item? Anybody from the public that wishes to speak on this item?
Chair, there was no public comments received.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman.
No.
Mr. Chairman, Martin Shelby.
Yes.
Could we also inquire of the convention center and have that on the record? And we could also see if the clerk has any written comments. I believe some were, at least I'm familiar with at least one written comment that was received.
Is there any public comment, written, documented, anybody in the convention center on this item?
Yes, there was one written comment received that has been filed, and also there's no one left at the convention center at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion to move the first resolution? Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
We have a
Second,
motion
Ms. Citro.
from Councilmember Miranda. Roll call vote.
Yes, Vieira,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. Now we have a motion for the second resolution. Do we have a motion to approve that?
So moved. Citro.
Second,
We have a
Miranda.
motion for Citro and a second from Councilmember Miranda. Roll call vote.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right. Now, can I get a motion to close this item number 50? To close the public hearing.
Sure.
You now have to take a roll call vote. Go ahead.
So move.
Motion?
So move.
Second, Miranda.
To close. Second from Councilmember Miranda to close. Roll call vote.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, thank you very much. Now may I have a motion to open item number 51? Same setup with the two resolutions. Can I get a motion to open 51?
So move, Mr. Chairman. Miranda.
Motion to open, Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Goods. Roll call vote to open the hearing.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you very much. All right, item number 51, Jan McLean.
Yes, good morning again. Jan McLean with the Office of the City Attorney. We're here today for 3 items under item number 51, file E2020-8. What you have in front of you first is a second reading of revisions to the ordinance for Chapter 24.5 regarding the tourism marketing districts. As you may recall, this ordinance was adopted back in 2017. It was subsequently challenged by the speaker, the then current Speaker of the House, and has gone through litigation and appeals. What we have proposed and was at first reading before you, which you approved, was revisions to the ordinance which would comply with the items that were brought to issue by then Speaker of the House. So you have those revisions under second reading for your approval here today. In addition, we have 2 resolutions. The first being is a declaration of the special assessments, because the collection of the special assessment for this year will be done by the alternative method as authorized by Chapter 170 of Florida statutes. So we would need you to approve that alternative method declaration in resolution. And the last item, which is a resolution which would set a time and date for hearing for the adoption of the role for the special assessment for this year. And that is the third resolution. And those would too, of course, would be contingent on your approval of the ordinance under second reading. If you have any questions, I have Mr. Tom Cloud, who is a partner with Gray Robinson, who represents the Hillsborough County Hotel and Motel Association, on the line.
Do you have any questions for the gentleman on the line? Any questions from council members?
Mr. Chair, Citro.
Councilman, go ahead.
Thank you very much. If I remember correctly, the City of Tampa is just a pass-through for this, correct?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions from council members? I hear none. All right. Before we go to reading the ordinance and setting the resolutions, do we have anybody from the public that wishes to speak? Anybody at the convention center? Any written documents? Anything at all?
Chair, we do not have any written documents, nor do we have any public comments live.
Okay. Before we close the hearing, we have to read the ordinance and pass these resolutions. Councilman Citro, would you like to read the ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you very much. File number E2020-8, CH 24.5, an ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption. An ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, relating to tourism marketing districts, amending the City of Tampa Code of Ordinance, revising and restating Chapter 24.5, Section 24.51 through 24.523, providing findings, modifying the downtown historic Ybor tourism marketing district, establishing the surface to provide within the district, providing a levy and process for collection of special assessments to fund the services provided within the district, providing an alternative for a uniform method of collection of such special assessments, providing for a separate accounting fund, providing for amendments to this ordinance, the collection of special assessments, and the increase in special assessments beyond maximum rate authorized, providing for corrections of errors and omissions in the assessment role, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing an effective date.
Do we have a second to this?
Second, Mr. Chairman, Miranda.
second from Councilmember Miranda. If we can have a roll call vote, please.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goode,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yeah.
Motion
Thank you,
carried.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, clerk.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, next we have to move the resolution. This is the first resolution. Who would like to go ahead and move that?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion from Councilmember Miranda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Goods. Roll call vote.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goode,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yeah.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you very much. Now may I have a motion to move the second resolution, which is to set the time and date for the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
So moved. So moved.
Second, Miranda.
Motion from Member Good, second from Councilmember Miranda. Roll call vote, please.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goode,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes. All
Motion
right,
ca-
may I have, go ahead, sorry.
It's okay. Motion carried unanimously.
All right, thank you very much. May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved, Mr.
So
Chairman.
moved.
We have a motion from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilmember Goods. Roll call vote.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goode,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
and Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you very much. That concludes the public hearings. We're going to go to staff reports and unfinished business. Items number 52 that we discussed earlier. All I need is a motion to move this resolution. May I have that motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded,
We have a
Citro.
Miranda, second from Councilmember Citro. Roll call vote.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goode,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yeah.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you very much. We already handled item number 53, which was removed. So we go to item number 54. Item number 54 regarding Fair Oaks Community Center. Who would like to begin?
Yes, good morning, City Council. This is Osea Wynn, Administrator of Neighborhood and Community Affairs. So yes, I would like to provide an overview of Fair Oaks and what was presented last week at the community opening or sharing the information. Next slide, please. So just to give you a little history of the building, it was originally built in 1974 with an addition or add-on in 1992. We had some improvements to the building within the last 10 years, as well as some interior and exterior improvements in 2013. Next slide, please. This is one of our active buildings in that we have a number of attendees attending the center. We have weekly usage of the fitness center, as well as summer camps, the no school camps for the students who are, for the teachers in service days, as well as spring break camps. This facility is also used, including weekly church service prior to COVID, as well as youth sports programs. Next slide, please. So to manage expectations and to give an overview, of what can be expected is we will be going into the design phase of the conceptual project in 2021. And in the following slides, I'll give an overview of what that concept would look like. Additionally, after we have the design done, we're looking at having the construction to start in 2022, as well as the project completion in 2024. We're anticipating that the projected cost for this project will be around $18 million. Next slide, please. So some of the project details that we are proposing, and I want to say that this is the concept that we are proposing. In order for us to realize success in this, we will have to get community input and community buy-in. But for the concepts, for the design, or for what, to provide an overview of what the center can look like, is that we will be renovating the existing community center. We'll be looking at adding new football and softball fields with basketball courts. We're proposing a toddler lot and splash pads, as well as an inclusive playground, as what was mentioned earlier in council this morning. Our shelters will be covered shelters to protect not only the children, but the seniors who will be using the facilities from the Florida summer heat and the rain, as well as a lighted walking path and expanded parking. Next slide, please. So this, again, provides some of the concepts in a little bit closer view. Renovating what's existing there in the community center, as well as building an expansion of a 7,300 square foot facility. We're looking at this to be a multi-use facility, if that's what the community deems necessary based on the input. This gives you a little bit of a closer visual for the toddler lot, and splash pads, and the ball fields. The expanded parking, we'll be looking at vacating both Caracas, as well as, the next slide, please, Wilder Streets. To put this again in perspective, the reason why we're have located or looked at this facility is because we have not only an opportunity to use an existing building, an existing structure, but we have an opportunity to fill some of the proximity gaps of what the residents in East Tampa would have to travel in terms of going to participate in gym and dance in other areas within the city. So Wayne Pappy is about 4 miles away. New Tampa Rec Center is about 12.5 miles away for the residents to participate in those programs. In terms of the existing senior centers and senior programs, Barksdale or at McFarland Park is 8 miles away, and the Reagan Center, it's 2.5 miles. So this center will allow those participants to use the facilities and the amenities there without having to leave the East Tampa area and to fill some of those needs in that community. Next slide, please. A new senior center. So in order for us to make this concept reality, one of the things that we are looking at doing is acquiring the Penny Saver property, which is south of the existing building, south of the retention pond area. This facility building will be modeled after Barksdale. And then for the gym and dance, we'll be using the 7,300 square foot building that I recently or just mentioned for the gym and dance programs. Next slide, please. So the center, 1,300 square foot building. This is the same square footage that we currently have at Barksdale. And the plan is to, as I mentioned, have the expanded parking with vacating the streets and providing a lighted walking path around the perimeter of this whole complex. We'll be looking at, for the seniors, installing these shuffleboard courts, which will be covered as well. Next slide, please. This is a layout of what we currently have for Barksdale, which will provide a realistic expectation of what the building will look like, can look like for the new senior center. Next slide, please. In order for this to be a success, community input is in fact critical. What we are providing is what the project could look like. However, we will need the community to let us know what it is they want, and we will meet when in the areas where we need to negotiate. We will meet the needs so that everyone can, through negotiation, provide input, and we can see what we can actually include in the program, include in the center. As the design phase takes place, that's when we will start the community engagement so that the ideas can be included in the front end instead of waiting as we get down into the program and to the project to make those changes. Next slide, please. This provides the overview of what we're proposing for Fair Oaks Community Center. I would entertain any questions if there are any.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Councilman Goods, go ahead.
I guess I was a little confused on the design models. So I was going to ask Ms. Socia if she can clarify. I was under the impression that the possible penny saver would be where the multicultural center would be. It would include the senior center and gymnastics. I wasn't aware that we're talking about putting gymnastics on the 7,300 square foot expansion. I don't know if that's big enough, 7,300 feet for gym and dance to be in that center. So I don't know if it's the suitors on the phone to explain that, because I was under the impression that the senior center would be a collaboration as a multicultural center with the gymnastics at the Penny Saber lot. So I guess I need to get a little clarification on that, because that is a big deal for me. I look at New Tampa, and it just makes me jump up and down when I see how beautiful inside that center is, and seeing those kids jump up and down and being able to do dance and gymnastics. And I know with our community step is going to be a big impact on that. So if I can get a little explanation on those two buildings and how we're going to work that, because Barksdale is a nice center, but it is outdated though. So I'm just wondering about that.
Yes, so Councilman Goods, to answer your question, so this, what we're looking at is proposing, and again, this is all in the conceptual phase, as a multi-use center. And meaning if in fact the 7,300 square foot space is not adequate, or we could have that as an alternate use, then that's an option. So you're absolutely correct. When we discuss this, we discuss using the senior center as the location for the gym and dance, and all of that. This will be part of the discussion as we're moving forward, as we go into the design phase. So these are conceptual ideas only.
Okay. And again, I'm grateful to the chief of staff. I know worked on this, and you and the mayor for us to come together as a council and as administration, and again to bridge the communities in my district together, so there's no infighting about one against the other. That we were able to come to a compromise, and everyone is seemingly pretty happy and overjoyed with the compromise of trying to get a gymnastics senior center, Fair Oaks renovated, and the other amenities that you add on to the conceptual design is wonderful, and the people are excited and they're ready for work to begin. So I'm just glad that we were able to come to a resolution with everyone involved to make this happen. It is a big project for East Tampa. Everyone is talking about it. It's all over the town, all the different communities that, hey, something big is coming. This amount of money coming to the East Tampa area is significant, and we're very appreciative of the work that's being put into this. Thank you. I yield back to Chairman.
Thank you very much, sir. Any other council members have any questions or comments?
This is
Mr. Chair,
Carlson and then Citro. Go ahead, Mr. Carlson.
Yes, I just want to state the same thing. Thank you to everyone for taking a serious look at this, and for any of constituents in other parts of the city who may be watching. This prior reports that we've gotten showed that this facility was not well maintained and was not kept up to the standards as community centers throughout the rest of the city. And so although parks in South Tampa and other parts of the city have problems as well, this one was way behind many of the other ones. And so it's great to be bringing it up to standard, and also matching many of the things that are going on with other parks. I wanted to ask a question. The genesis of my awareness of this, anyway, a year and a half ago, was that people from the community came and talked about rats being in this facility, and the paper has infamously written about it as well. But that was the first that I heard about it, because the community came and said, our seniors and our kids can't go play there because there are rat hairs following us. And so then we made a motion at city council and asked the rats to be taken out. And the staff came back and reported that one rat was found subsequently. And then the community at that meeting, and then at the public meeting we held a short time thereafter, said that there were still rats. Even when we were standing in the room, they said there were still rats there. I'm just curious, is there any update on that situation? Is the paper said that the rats have since been removed and there's no more problem? Can we confirm that, and that there have been no more complaints from the community about rats?
Yes, sir, Councilman. We have not received any complaints since the last reporting of the rats in the building. And what we've done is we've engaged not only our facility management team through logistics and asset management, but also hired a exterminator contractor or company to ensure that all of the openings in the building were closed, that all of the low-hanging trees or branches were cut back and removed. So we have not had any recent complaints, but I can follow up to see if that still holds true.
Great, thank you. And just one final comment. Citizens of communities get frustrated sometimes because they think government isn't listening. And this is a case where city council listened, the mayor's office listened, and it sounds like I was pleased to hear in your conversation that you plan to continue listening and working with the community on this. And so to everyone who has an issue or they're frustrated, please know that we are listening and we're trying to work to help further the community. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Ms. Osea, this is a very, very good report. I thank you very much for this. To Councilman Carlson's point, yes, Councilman Goods, Councilman Carlson, and myself were at Fair Oaks when the community came out and spoke, and we, the city council, heard them very, very loud and clear. I would like to thank the administration and staff that had heard the concerns and heard the voices of the community. But I also like to thank Mr. Paul Dial, who is with head of Parks and Recreation. I thank him for his help but actually all the kudos go to Councilman Goods. Councilman Goods, thank you for being a representative of your community and your district, and congratulations for this big project that is going to come to fruition because of your hard work. Thank you, Councilman Goods. Mr. Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments?
Vieira, if I may.
Mr. Vieira, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I wanted to echo what a lot of my colleagues are saying with, I know there was a lot of the community meeting, Councilman Citro, Councilman Carlson, obviously been very involved in this issue, but I think we all agree in saluting Councilman Goods. We all remember a year ago at that budget hearing when Councilman Orlando surprised us all by asking for $1 million. I remember during our break going up to our friend Joe Greco and going, "This is crazy. What's going on?" You know, but what we didn't necessarily account for was for a councilman coming in like a wrecking ball for his community and for his district. So I really just wanted to salute Councilman Goods for his work in this regard, and certainly the mayor for and the administration for working with the councilman on this issue. It's a great victory for all of the city of Tampa as far as I'm concerned. And also what Councilman Citro said, and thank you, Councilman Citro, for bringing up Mr. Paul Dial. In working with Paul Dial, I always found him to be a nice gentleman who listened, and I know that he worked on this as well. So thank you, Councilman Citro, for mentioning that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Well, Councilman Goods, this is a huge victory, not just for yourself, but for the people of your community and your district. I call District 5 the land that time forgot, but under your leadership, you're changing that, you're changing the narrative, and you're delivering to the community. And it's an area of the city that's been neglected for more than half a century, if not even longer. But you know, with your determination and hard work, you're making progress and getting things done, not in a small way, but in a big, significant way that'll affect not this generation, but the next one as well. Osea, Ms. Nguyen, anything else at this time? You have more for the presentation?
No, that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes our agenda at 10:58 a.m. 10:58 a.m. It seems like the old days. Having said that, seeing that there's nothing else, we'll go to information reports and new business from council members. I'll start with Council Member Vieira, if you have anything at this time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nothing at all. You know, I was going to encourage council members to do this, just thinking of this off the cuff, so to speak. I had introduced a couple of weeks ago a motion with regards to an apprenticeship ordinance, and I was going to be taking a tour of an apprenticeship facility that's run by some of our labor organizations. And obviously we can't do it together, but I just wanted to formally encourage all council members to tour, if you have time, in the coming months, weeks, what have you, the apprenticeship facilities that so many of our local organizations have here. If you haven't done it, I mean, I did it a couple of years ago, but just to get a good firsthand view of what, you know, goodness willing, we're going to be pushing through and dealing with in this city in terms of, you know, creating additional opportunities for upward mobility for so many of our young people and other people in the city. Just wanted to encourage folks in that regard, but nothing that needs to be voted on. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Council Member Goods.
Nothing today, sir. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you very much. Council Member Dingfelder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, sir.
In regard to offer transportation, so we passed that referendum, I think it's been 2 years ago, and it's my understanding that the city is now in receipt of, I think about $60 million that's just sitting in our treasury, gathering interest, but not being used like the citizens asked for. And I know that there's a lawsuit pending. I also know that there's no injunction to keep us from spending that money. So what I would like is a report from staff and legal on the status of the lawsuit, but more importantly, on the status of that money that's sitting. The people spoke. They said, collect our money, use it for transportation. And yet 2 years have passed, collected tens of millions of dollars, and we haven't done anything with it. And I think in some ways that's breaching our responsibility. So,
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Andrea?
Yes, I'm sorry. This is Andrea Zellman, Deputy City Attorney. I just wanted to advise Mr. Dingfelder, we would be glad to discuss this issue offline. You know that as a general rule, a general policy, we do not like to, and we don't discuss matters that are in litigation in a public forum such as the city council meeting. This is a legal issue. It was a legal decision as to whether the money could be spent pending the law school. The same legal decision was made by the county and by Hart. And I'm glad to discuss offline with Mr. Dingfelder or with any other member of council, and our office, I should say, is glad to discuss with you the current status of the litigation and the status of those funds. But we would ask that you not request that at a public forum such as the council meeting or by a public report. Thank you.
okay, well, I know that, well, I'm going to continue with my statements. I know that's the city attorney's position. I think that position is too conservative. I think that the public voted for this. The public has a right to know, A, what's going on, and B, more importantly, I think it needs to be a community discussion on whether we spend the money. Just because some county administrators got together with a mayor, got together with Hart, and among those non-elected officials made some kind of decision not to spend the money, that I think that's frankly a policy decision the council needs to discuss, the community needs to discuss.
Mr. Dingfelder, this is Gina Grimes, the city attorney.
Okay, well, if I could just finish, no, if I could just finish my, if I could finish my.
Incorrect. You're stating facts that are incorrect, and I would really appreciate it if you'd follow the advice of the city attorney and not discuss matters that are in litigation.
Mr. Chairman,
okay, let me ask you a question.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, point of order, please.
Mr.
I had the floor.
If I can, Mr. Chairman, I just want to bring it to the chair's attention. If I can bring it to the chair's attention.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
And as well as council, but I think it's in the purview of the chair, Mr. Chairman, that you be aware of Rule 4J of council's rules of procedure, and that council should avoid any discussion of matters at a public meeting where the city is or is likely to be a party in litigation without the concurrence of council. And my point in interrupting Mr. Dingfelder is to just bring that to the chair's attention in case he wasn't aware or had the rules virtually at his fingertips. So I wanted to apprise him of that, and as well as council. I'm sorry for interrupting. Thank you very much.
Okay, I have the floor. If I could ask a question to Ms. Grimes.
Go ahead and ask your question, sir.
Okay. I think I've read most of the litigation. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I don't recall the litigation specifically addressing what happens to the money during the pending litigation. Okay. I don't recall there being an injunction against us from spending that money. I'm well aware of the litigation. I'm well aware of the meat of the litigation. I don't recall that whether or not we can, should, or will spend the money and when is part of the litigation. Correct me if I'm wrong.
As I said earlier, Gina Grimes, city attorney, as I said earlier, I am not discussing this issue in a public forum. I'm happy to brief you, happy to have our staff brief you on all of the various different lawsuits that are pending right now, but this matter is in litigation, and the issue you're raising is a legal issue, and it's not appropriate to discuss it. And you even have a rule that says that it's not appropriate to discuss it. And I'm sorry to take such a hardline position, but we've taken this position for decades now, and you have a legitimate question. It's just this isn't the appropriate forum to discuss it.
Thank you very much. Anything else, Councilman Dingfelder?
I guess I don't understand the hesitancy to answer my question. Has the financial part of this
been litigated. If it has, I'm totally fine with not talking about it in public. But I haven't seen in the paperwork and the orders and in the motions, et cetera, that the money part of it, you know, what do you do with the money in the meantime has been litigated. But I will discuss that with Ms. Grimes offline and bring it back at a later date if appropriate. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, and I'm glad that you're deciding on that. Being that, you know, matters that are in litigation, I go by the, you know, I'd rather not say anything if something is pending and keep it that way. But you discuss it privately, and then in the future, if appropriate, we can bring it up again. Thank you very much, sir. Moving on to Councilman Carlson. Do you have anything for new business?
Yes, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair and colleagues. Thank you. A couple weeks ago, you all approved a resolution for the Tampa Union Station. And just for backdrop, I've been in conversations with them for many, many years and been helpful behind the scenes in supporting their efforts to support and maintain that beautiful building that we have. As you know, the resolution we passed a couple weeks ago is to ask Amtrak to return to their regular services that they had because they cut back. But the other thing that I've been talking to them about for several years is activating the building more, in particular the upstairs building. A few years ago, I went with the Tampa Chamber to Denver, and Denver Union Station is a giant coffee shop. Think about 10 times the Oxford Exchange. It's a coffee shop, but it also is kind of like an incubator. It has space for entrepreneurs to get together and mingle. Right now during COVID-19, it may not make sense, but in the future, it may make sense to do that again. And there's plenty of parking at Tampa Union Station. So in conversation with Tampa Union Station, they asked me to make the following motion. I would like to make a motion to ask staff to study the possibility of holding an RFP to add a professional coffee shop and entrepreneurial space / incubator at Tampa Union Station and report back on November 5th.
November 5th. All right, do we have a second on that motion? Do we have a second on that motion?
I'll give him a second.
All right, we have a second from Councilmember Goots. Well, I don't think we need a roll call vote. Is there any objection to the motion?
And what was the motion? And again, in a nutshell, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, I missed the entirety of it.
He had asked that city staff provide a report to come back November 5th regarding a Union Station, the train station just outside of downtown, putting like an incubator, a coffee shop, you know, make it more of a, I would assume, where folks can come and work and, you know, work on their computers and whatnot, have coffee, kind of in a way like what Oxford Exchange has on their second floor with the Commerce Club. Is that correct, Councilman Carlson?
Yes, something like that.
Okay, that could be done by. I'm sorry. Question?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Just a friendly amendment to Mr. Carlson's motion. I
Okay.
believe that train station is in a CRA zone. So if we're going to ask staff, we may need to ask the CRA maybe to look at that and be involved as well because it is in a CRA zone, that train station.
Okay. Well, do you want to wait till the CRA meeting and make the motion there and keep it within the CRA discussion?
No, I think
or do you want...
I think if I could just amend it based on what he said to ask city staff and CRA staff to report back.
Okay, then we'll do that for November 5th. And we have a motion from Councilman Carlson, second from Councilmember Goods. Is there any objection to this motion? Hearing none, motion passes by unanimous consent. Anything else, Mr. Carlson?
No, thank you very much.
Councilman Citro, Chair Pro Tem Citro, do you have anything at this time?
Mr. Chair, nothing today. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Very much. Councilmember Miranda.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I need to ratify and confirm the commendation that I gave yesterday on behalf of the council to 22 years of service for Robert Rose at the Convention Center.
Very good. Do we have a second to that?
Second.
Second, Citro.
Second from Councilmember Citro. Is there any objection to that? Hearing none. All right, by unanimous consent, that is approved. Councilman Citro, I'm going to hand you the gavel. Did you get it? You have the gavel now. I'd like to make a few motions here. This is on behalf of discussion with Carol Post and in response to a memorandum that was dated August 10, 2020 with regard to prior city council motions related to housing affordability. my motion is that, and I have this all printed and I will submit this to the clerk. I move that the following related motion topics be placed on the August 27th workshop agenda 2020 in order to allow for comprehensive discussion of housing affordability issues. Number one, the city's ability to use a nonprofit organization to raise private funds to create a pool of money to support and provide affordable housing assistance or programs. Number two, the status of land banking by the city of Tampa for the possibility of creating an ordinance for adoption. Number three, the use of incentive alternatives for affordable housing. Number four, a report on the possibility of having smaller zoning lots. Number five, an update on the contract program with Domain Homes and the CDC of Tampa. This is my first motion, and I will provide this to the clerk later this afternoon. I have it printed out, and that's it, if I can get a second.
Second, Mr. Chair. Second, Miranda. Hello, second.
Councilman Citro.
Yes, I'm here. I apologize. The motion's been made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Without objection, motion passes.
Thank you very much.
By unanimous consent, Mr. Chair Pro Tem?
Yes, correct. By unanimous consent.
Thank you.
And I have a second motion. This is related to land use and growth management. And it's a balance of schedule and number of agenda items at any one meeting, and to allow for a comprehensive discussion of related items at one workshop. So my motion is, and I have this printed and we'll submit it to the clerk, I move that the following related motions be placed on a workshop agenda at the October 22nd workshop. Number one, discussion of the city's bonus density provisions. They're presently scheduled for the August 27th workshop. I'd like to move this to the October 22nd. Number two, discussion of planning matters related to Davis Islands and the West Shore Palms neighborhood. Those are presently scheduled for August 27th. I'd like to push those to October 22nd. Number three, possible code changes to allow for an administrative process to approve development of lots within 5% of zoning code dimensional criteria. This is presently scheduled for the August 27th workshop. I'd like to move that to the October 22nd. And having said that, I'd also like to make a motion that the pending motion related to growth management and planning for areas in which growth is and is not encouraged, which is presently scheduled for October 22nd, now that I've moved these items for that day, I ask that those items be continued, and this is at the request of the legal department, to a date that we will determine in the future. So what is presently scheduled under growth management for October 22nd, that'll be rescheduled. We'll figure it out later. And these items that I've listed, which again I have written down, be placed on the October 22nd workshop.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Shelby.
Mr. Chairman. Yes, may I make some inquiry? I'm looking at the council's approved calendar updated for August 19th, 2020, which came out at 4:30 p.m. And I'm looking at the October 22nd date of workshops.
Yes, sir.
Did you say that I only see one item on the October 22nd workshop on the calendar that came out yesterday. Are there additional items that you're saying you're removing from the 22nd?
What do you have there on that October 22nd? Is it just Police Chief Dugan?
That's all I have.
Mr. Shelby,
Yes.
This is Andrea Zellman. I think the confusion is that my understanding is that this past Monday night, August 17th, Councilman Carlson made a motion to move that general growth management discussion of where growth should and should not be encouraged. My understanding is he made a motion Monday night to move that from the September 24th agenda to the October 22nd agenda. I don't believe the calendar has been updated yet to reflect that, but our office has asked the chair, and as he just stated to you, that we hold that one off. We're waiting for some pending litigation to be settled before we have that discussion come before council. So we wanted to wait And when we read, when we were certain of a date, come back to council with a date for that.
Mr. Chair,
I understand.
Mr. Chair, or
Who is speaking?
this is
Mr.
Carlson. Yes, there were two discussions that we had set up. One, which I think has somehow dropped off the calendar, was a discussion of South of Gandy, and I know that one was being held back due to current litigation. But the other one was a generic conversation about growth and no growth throughout the city. And my understanding is we were going to try to move this to November. Already we were moving it from September to October, but we have a lot of very, very, very angry neighborhood leaders. And if we do not hold this meeting soon, we are going to have angry speakers and letters at every meeting. They're holding back only because they know that we have this conversation going up. But every day we're getting more and more emails from angry neighborhood leaders. And it's not just about specific land use issues, it's about overall planning. And they see our delay in this discussion as a failure to plan and think in their best interest. And I just want to say that I think we should hold it as soon as possible because of scheduling COVID. I understand that that we couldn't have it till maybe October, but there's got to be a way that we can have this conversation sooner without putting us at risk with litigation. At least we can hear from the public, can't we?
And Mr. Carlson, this is Andrea Zellman, Deputy City Attorney again. I just checked with Kate Wells, our practice group leader for land use, and she said November would be an appropriate date to schedule that discussion.
Okay, thank you.
A reminder, Council, presently you have no workshops scheduled for November and December, and that's traditional because of the holidays. So that would require you to take that into account if you were to schedule something.
Councilman
Mr.
Dingfelder. Councilman
Mr.
Dingfelder.
Thank you,
Councilman
sir.
Dingfelder.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Shelby. Mr.
Yes,
Shelby.
sir. Yes.
Our Councilman or Chairman Guido has made two different motions, including the one that's pending, that appear to have come from staff and the city attorney's department. Were you privy to either of these prior to today's discussion?
Sir, I was privy to the motion, the request from Carol Post by memorandum. I believe it was referred to by dated August 10th, requesting council to choose August 27th for a date. I was not familiar with the motion that's on the floor.
Okay. Council and staff and legal, we have a city council attorney. One of his jobs that it appears that he does very, very well day in and day out is to organize our schedule, help organize our schedule, and help organize our workshops. Let's please include him in these discussions in advance of council meetings. I don't know where the breakdown is. That's all I have to say for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
You have the gavel. I'm still making. I made the motion,
and that's where I'm going. There's still a motion on the floor, Council, made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Without objection, the motion passes with unanimous consent. Is that all, Councilman Maniscalco?
I think there was a friendly amendment to move that one growth management meeting to November.
Okay, then the growth management one, on a date today, November.
Mr. Chairman, Martin Shelby, if I can clarify, I don't believe that amendment was part of the motion. If that's a separate motion, then it should be made separately.
As I remember, no, it wasn't part. If Mr. Carlson would like to make that or amend that, fine.
Okay, I would like to make the amendment to the motion that we move the land use, or sorry, the growth, no growth discussion until November.
We don't have November.
Councilman Maniscalco, is that acceptable to you in your motion?
When are we going to do it? Because there's no workshops in November or December due to the holidays.
Council, excuse me, Council. Marty, you got any input on the scheduling time?
Well, council, in November dates, you have one regular meeting on the 5th of November and a second one on the 19th of November. Those are your two regular meetings. You have no night meetings presently scheduled for those days. So if you want to go into the afternoon on that, you won't run up against an evening meeting. Your evening meeting in the month of November is only scheduled presently for the evening of the 12th.
Councilman Carlson, which would you prefer, the 5th or the 19th?
What day is election day? Is right around there, right?
One I suspect is before election day, and the other I suspect is after election day.
Why don't we go with the 5th then? Just because I think we need to do it as soon as possible, if you don't mind.
Now, here's my question. Here's my question to you, council. Do you want that set as a staff report? Do you want that set as a workshop within the council meeting? Do you want it set for a time certain, starting perhaps in the afternoon? Of course, that would mean perhaps if we're still virtual, and I can't say at this point, that would be a break between the regular meeting perhaps and the afternoon meeting. It's council's pleasure. And of course, we have to predict the future, which is impossible.
Councilman Carlson.
The other thing is making it convenient for neighborhood leaders who tend to not be available midday. I don't know what the solution is. I wish we could do it tomorrow, but waiting till January, I think is not going to be good. We're going to get a lot of complaints.
Councilman Carlson, if we're going to move this to a November date, we have the 15th and the 19th, and I understand your concern about the timing of it.
Is there a way to put it first thing in the morning on one of those dates?
We don't know how busy that calendar is going to be on a regular session.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a very lengthy discussion.
You could schedule it for the afternoon. Mr. Chairman, a suggestion, if council wants, obviously council has the ability to set a separate day. As we stand now, Madam Clerk, has those items, as a result of the last motion, fallen off the agenda now? Are they still on the agenda?
Yes.
The workshop.
Correct. Yes, it is.
So in order for those items to come off, there does have to be a motion made, and there should be a date and a date certain, at least. Would you agree?
That is correct.
Okay. So council, if you want to set it for an afternoon at 1:30, if you want to set it for an evening meeting, of course, that means the neighborhood, but not only that, it also means the staff would have to be available and present. Your other option is to set another day of the week. Mind you, the logistics involved, particularly with virtual meetings, are substantial. It's council's pleasure. The only thing I would recommend, council, is please remember that your regular meetings, both on the 5th and the 19th, are there to do public business. There for approvals, there to move things along, as opposed to policy discussions, which frankly you have no control over the time. So my recommendation to you, council, is always get your official public business out of the way early, as soon as you can.
Councilman Carlson. Mr. Goode, you're recognized. Mr. Goode, you're recognized.
Seeming as though Mr. Carlson feels this is a pressing issue, he feels that the community wants to really talk about this issue, and these dates are kind of conflicting, especially if you're saying afternoon or early morning. Most citizens, community people, they're working. I don't know what's on it. Again, I didn't hear the portion of reference of an evening and trying to set it for an evening. If there's an evening date, that way the public can be invited to participate, if that's what Mr. Carlson is looking to do, because apparently he's looking for community participation, or communities have been asking about this type of participation. So, Mr. Shelby, I would ask, are there any evening dates?
Marty, can I ask a question, please?
Yeah, would it be, well, certainly, September, council, I'm going to remind you, is jam-packed, particularly because of the all-important budget issues and the budget hearings and budget adoption. So if I can't in good conscience think of a date right now in September, but with regard to October, if you want to add an evening meeting to your October 15th day meeting and take it up at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whatever council's pleasure is on the 15th, and then be conscious of not adding too much to your October 15th agenda, then that's a possibility. I'm sorry.
Council, this is Kate Wells, if I may. One of the reasons our department is recommending that the growth management workshop be scheduled in November is it would allow, hopefully, for all the pending land use litigation to be concluded, and to look at dates either in September or the earlier part of October would not benefit us in that manner. And that if council wishes to schedule an evening meeting either on the 5th or the 19th, we're certainly available for that. If you want to schedule a different date altogether, we're available for that. But we would recommend that council focus on the month of November.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wells. Mr. Shelby, it seems as if we're kind of spinning our wheels right here. Can Councilman Carlson and you get together on certain dates and his motion or his amendment be brought up in this evening's session?
Yes.
Thank you.
But as of now, as of now, without a motion, those items remain on next week's workshop. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
That is correct.
No, that
Okay,
the growth and no growth session, last week we moved to October 22nd.
Correct. It just hasn't been put on the calendar as of yet because the action summary hasn't been distributed.
Mr. Carlson, then can you please speak? Mr. Carlson, can you please speak with Mr. Shelby and figure out a time, and staff, and figure out a time and date in November and bring it back up at this evening's discussion?
Sure, but does anybody of my colleagues, if you all disagree with me and think that this is not urgent, let me know. If you think it is sufficient to schedule a special time, then we can do that.
Councilman Mascalco.
Councilman Mascalco.
I don't, the whole world is on pause or delayed. I was looking at even January's workshop, having it on an already scheduled workshop hearing because, everything has been delayed and up in the air this year. I just, I understand the importance of the discussion, but, it's not so urgent that, we have to look at basically a special call meeting or something, something out of the ordinary. That's just my...
Why don't we, this is Carlson again, why don't we just put it on the January workshop then and see what feedback we get from the community and see if that's sufficient. That way we can move it now.
All right, so we can do that in amending the motion that I made for the growth management items that are presently scheduled for October 22nd, that they be rescheduled or continued to the January 28th workshop session. And I think this is fine because hopefully things get settled. Hopefully, we're not meeting virtually by then. Hopefully, the situation over the place gets better and it's a set and certain date for that evening and we don't have to delay it anymore and we can tell the public and our constituents we are having this discussion. It's a very intricate and detailed discussion, so we're not rushing anything. And however long that workshop takes that day in January, we will be addressing a lot. That's my motion. And again, clerk, I will provide you a copy of these motions in writing later this afternoon so you have everything.
Mr. Chair, this is Andrea Zellman. I apologize. We're having trouble following. So just to be clear, the motion scheduling the affordable housing items to August 27th will remain the same, but now, is it my understanding you've made the decision to move all of the other items, and both the growth and no growth issue and then the other growth management things to January, or just the growth and no growth?
And I have the written motion here where it says motion of the items scheduled for land use and growth management. These items that are now on the August 27th workshop, that they be scheduled to October 22nd. Now, the items that were originally scheduled of growth management on the October 22nd, those items that are scheduled now before this motion that I make, those items be moved to the January 28th workshop at 9 a.m.
Chairman Citro.
Yes. Councilman Dingfelder.
Thank you, sir. Chairman, I think you had a great idea. We seem to be going round and round. No councilman has seen this motion in writing, and it's pretty complicated. So why don't we just, somebody send the motion to us in writing so we can look at it during the day and we can take it up tonight, if that's okay with Councilman.
All right, let's do that. Let's do that. This discussion has gotten out of control. So this second motion here that is pending, I will retract it. I ask that the legal department send this out to all council members. We can look at it throughout today, and I'll bring it up this evening.
Thank you very much, Councilman Dingfelder. Thank you, Councilman Maniscalco. You have withdrawn your motion?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Then I hand the gavel back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. If there's nothing else, can I get a motion to receive and file on documents?
And Mr. Chair, Vera, if I may,
Vieira.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize. Just really quick, I wanted to also congratulate Mike Stout, who's now the major with Tampa Police Department over in District 2, for his professionalism, and I look forward to working with him for his professional achievement, I should say, and I look forward to working with him. And additionally, I'll send a memo, but this evening I may be 15, 20 minutes late. On this day, 72 years ago, my mother was born in Hershey, Cuba. So I will be celebrating her birthday early on with her and my family, but I may be a little bit late. So just FYI. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No worries. Happy birthday to her.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Can I get a motion to receive and file all documents?
Move to receive and file, Citro.
Do we have a second?
Second, Carlson.
Second from Councilman Carlson. If there's no objection, that passes by unanimous consent to receive and file all documents. Thank you very much. We are adjourned. We will be back at 6 o'clock this evening for our evening council session. Thank you.